What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're talking about Winkler Knives. This is the Winkler Knives brand overview, and it's been a little while since I did a brand overview, and the reason for that is that I kind of have to get a familiarity with a brand, with several of their knives to kind of get a feel for the entire brand. It's not like I can get one knife of a single brand and then I kind of have to know what I'm talking about, or at least, in my opinion, know what I'm talking about. So I finally got to that point. This is kind of my collection of Winkler knives, and I finally got to a point where I said, you know what, I think I can talk kind of intelligently about it. So one of the reasons that well, let me give you some overview on Winkler knives. So Dan Winkler. Okay, and I'm just gonna show you here the general. So Dan Winkler, I think his call to fame is the fact that he crafted all of the edge weapons for the Last of the Mohicans, for that movie. Okay, that's kind of his call to fame. He's the master bladesmith, and he does a lot of very traditional knives and axes. I don't use axes, so I'm going to be talking about Winkler knives, not Winkler axes. So that's what I'm going to be talking about here. And one of the things that he does is, he uses a steel called 8CR. 8CR. I'm gonna put it here, but it's what I'm trying. 8cverview maybe, and what I'm trying to say is that this is not a steel. There's a cheap steel that's the 8CR13 MOV. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. This is a different steel. It's still not what I would consider one of the super steels, right? Your 3Vs, your crew wares, your Magna Cuts. So it's not any of those. Okay. It's kind of a more traditional steel. And in correspondence with him, I asked him, and he's found that because of how he grinds his blades and how he heat treats, that the steel provides a very good balance of how he likes to do his knives. And I gotta give it to the guy. In reality, his edges last a long time. They're really good edges. This general, I put a mirror edge on it. I don't know if you can tell, but it sharpens very nicely. So that's kind of the introduction to Winkler knives. One of the things that makes Winkler knives unique, at least as far as I can tell, is that most knife makers, what they do is they have a steel blank, right, where the let's say the blade stock, right, the steel plate is a constant thickness, right? Maybe they've already kind of done the outline, and what they do is they do the heat treatment on that blank. Okay, after they've done the heat treatment, what they do is then after that they grind this primary and secondary bevels on the knives. And they do that because during the heat treatment process, it's much easier to keep the blank from warping. Okay, the heat treatment process, it involves a lot of heat. It involves a lot of, it involves controlled cooling, and so the steel can warp. So it's much easier to do it that way. And after they've done the heat treatment, they do the grind. That way, they can do the heat treatment on a thicker piece of steel, and that controls the warping. Well, what Winkler does, or what he says, is that what he does is he grinds the blade first. Okay, this primary bevel, he grinds it first, and he does the heat treatment second. And that's problematic because the heat treatment is done on a thinner piece of steel, on this is thinner than if you kept the constant thickness across the main grind, the primary grind. And that's important because what he says is that in the grinding process, some heat is generated, so you lose a little bit of the properties that you gain in the heat treatment process by doing the grind afterwards. So he likes to do the grind first and then do the heat treatment process. That way he preserves everything that was gained on the heat treatment process. The problem with that, or the reason some of these knives are more expensive, is that it allows, or it creates a problem for him, because some of these blades might warp when he does the heat treatment, just because it's a thinner steel. So when that happens, that's a discard, that's waste, right? So, but because of the way he does his heat treatment, these are, look, I've sharpened a lot of knives. I've sharpened S110V, S90V, Crewwear, LMAX M390, S35 yen, all of them, D2, 3V, and nothing has been harder to sharpen than his knives. These are the whatever he does to his steel, it ends up incredibly sharp. One of the things that they do, and well, okay, so that's kind of introduction to Winkler Knives. So I'm going to be talking about what the brand does right, what the brand does wrong, or what they could do better. I'm going to talk about, an iconic knife in their lineup, if there is one. And I'm going to talk about what knife I would recommend if you want to get into Winkler Knives. So let me tell you my collection, what I've got here. The first one that you see here, this is called the General. I'm not even sure if this is still in production. This was a limited or an exclusive of the Mass General store. I believe these are made in South Carolina, and they so that's where the Mass General store is. So they had this, and I was lucky enough to get one of these. I think this is one of my favorite knives. It's really, really nice. So I'm just gonna put it here. Then kind of in order of and you can see these have been used. This is the Jaeger. Okay, I believe you can find that one still. And then this one is the Highland Hunter. And this is the Field Knife. Okay, so you can see I've tried, from their smaller knife that you can kind of EDC to I believe this is the largest one he makes, the Field Knife. So this is what I have. And so let's talk about what the brand does right. Okay, I think that the heat treatment on their blades is really, really good. I do think that he's done, he sprinkles some, whatever his process is, it yields a very good steel. It yields an edge that lasts for a long time. I have to say that. And I've chopped and batoned, and it's not chippy. You can see the one that I've used for that is this larger one, and you don't see and nothing's happened to the edge. So I think that they do very well the heat treatment of the blades. He's got a very traditional look. The General kind of breaks a little bit with the style, I think. If you see this one, the handle has a very particular kind of shape. This one a little bit, but I think the ergonomics on these knives is pretty darn good. I would not say that it's kind of as good as kind of Bark River knives, and the reason for that is these are much more neutral handles, right? This, regardless of which way you hold this knife, it always feels pretty darn good in the hand. So when you have a handle that you can reposition your hand in a bunch of different ways, you lose a little bit of the ergonomics if you were just to hold it in just one position, right? So I think they have good ergonomics for kind of an all position grip. Okay, is what I would say. I really like the aesthetics of the knives. I think, as you can see here, there's I think the traditional look, the way these are ground, I think is excellent. I think that the jimping is very unique. So he's got two kinds of jimping. One of them I'm going to try and show you here a little closer. So what you see here is it's two lines and then these kind of circular divots and then these two lines, and it's very effective. Your finger's not going anywhere in that jimping. So you can see that jimping in that knife, in the field knife, and in the general, you can see it as well. And here, it's even in two locations, one for if you want to do here, and one if you want to really, really get close to the action over here. So that's what you've got. The Jaeger has a little bit different where it's just lines, but it's also very effective, and it is not painful at all. I think, from a comfort and usage, I think I like the Jaeger style better. The circular divots, if you really bear into it, it can get a little bit painful, just a bit, not much, but a little bit, just because of those circular divots. They kind of dig into your hand a little bit, but that's if you're really, really bearing down on it. So I think the fit and finish, the heat treatment, the grinds, the traditional look of these knives, I think is something that the brand does very well. And the thing that I think these knives do better than basically any brand out there is the sheaths. One of my viewers commented, oh, by the way, there's reviews of all of these knives in my channel, so if you want to do you want to see a review of either one of these knives, they're all up in my channel. You can go check them out. I was told by one of my viewers that the sheaths are made by his wife, and the sheaths, I think, are the best in the world. I don't think anybody else makes better sheaths than Winkler Knives. And what he does is on the inside you've got kind of like this. I don't know if it's felt or if it's whatchamacallit, leather. I'll think about it. But it's got like this felt, and then you've got this Kydex layer, and then you got leather on the outside. So the result of that is that when your knife goes in, it has the retention of Kydex without the plasticky feel and click of when your blade goes into the sheath. It has the retention of Kydex, and it has the traditional look of leather on the outside. So these suede is the word that I was looking for. I don't know if it's suede on the inside. It might be suede or it might be felt, but in any event, it just there's no sound. Look, there's no click, but it has all of the retention, but it looks very traditional. And on the back you have this kind of tech lock style clip that you can do to your belt. So I think that one thing that Winkler Knives better than anybody is their sheaths. I think that all of these knives are worth trying out just for the sheath. So I think all of that is what the brand does well. What can the brand do better? So I would say this: I would like to have one of their knives in a non-coated blade. All of their blades are coated, and the problem with coating is that you get this, right? As you use it, the coating starts to degrade, and it might be a function of the steel that he's using, but I would like a non-coated blade. So I think that's kind of an area of opportunity that they could do. Another one is, look, like I said, I corresponded with Dan Winkler, and and he feels fairly strong about the use of his HCRV2 steel. So and he's a master bladesmith, and I'm just a person who uses knives. So just so you know, it's very likely that he knows more than I do. But at the same time, I feel like the evolution of steel has gone to the point where there might be better steels out there, and I think that you can still do the traditional knife but using modern materials. And you know, the process that he does, the heat treatment and all of that, I would very much like to have one of his knives in a crew wear or a 3V steel with the same attention to detail, the same heat treatment process that he does. I think you can get something really special, and especially because these knives are not cheap. You know, they're 350 in the 350 to 450 range. So at that price point, you really are expecting a steel. You know, it took me a long time to pull the trigger on my first Winkler knife because of the steel. And the reason I corresponded with him, it was like, hey, convince me, you know, basically that this steel is worth my money. And as you can see, he did convince me, and I can tell you that the steel is good. But I am left wondering, what could he do, you know, if he applied himself with one of the more modern super steels. I would really like to see that. I think that'd be a sight to see. I really do. So I think those are the things that the brand could do better. I think that if they could do maybe an updated modern steel and see what they can do, and non-coated blades. I think, you know, you can tell which one I used the most, right? And actually the finish, the coating actually is fairly durable, because like I said, I've chopped and betoned with this one, and you can see very little markings on it. So you know, like I said, it's not. I think that having the option of having a coated or non-coated blade is always better than just having to just swallow coated blades all the time. That's what I'll say. So iconic knife in their lineup. I think that maybe it's the belt knife. I don't have it here. I think I'm not sure that it rises to the level of iconic. I'm not sure how many people know about Winkler Knives. But I would say that's probably his most well-known model. It's when I saw it, it's not one that appeals to me all that much. That's why I don't have it. But I think when people talk about Winkler Knives, maybe his belt knife is what he is known for the most, or at least that's what most people would probably recognize. Now, which one do I recommend? If you want to get into Winkler Knives, where would I start? And I would start right here in the Highland Hunter. Now, my favorite knife of Winkler Knives is the General, okay? So if you can find the General, I would highly recommend it. But this is more of a, it's almost like an EDC. It's a fairly small knife. I'll give you some dimensions here so that you know, so this is over 3.5 inches, just over 3.5 inches. So it's a very small fixed blade, at least as fixed blades go. But the ergonomics are awesome. The design is awesome. It's a beautiful knife, but I don't know that you can find it. That's my personal favorite. But if I wanted to just recommend something to you, it's really hard to go wrong with the Highland Hunter. The Highland Hunter is what I would call a medium-size jack of all trades type of knife. It's 4 3/4 thereabouts. So this is very much in the it's a little bit bigger than something like a Nyala, like a Chris Root Nyala. It's probably closer to like a Bravo 1 in size, but it has a fairly, you know, a relatively thinner edge than what you get on some of the Bark River knives. So this is really a really good jack of all trades, neutral handle, excellent sheath, really good heat treatment. I would say, if I had to start somebody's collection of Winkler knives, I would start here, and from there the person can say, you know what, I really needed a bigger knife for something else, or I needed a smaller knife for something else. I think this is a really good middle of the road place to start. This I would highly recommend this knife. I think this will do a lot of the things that you might do, and my usage for these knives is mostly bushcraft camping type applications. Okay, that's kind of what I use these knives for, and it's one of the reasons that, for example, if you see my I have a top fixed blades knife. This one didn't make it there because for a knife this size, I use this for chopping and batoning, and it doesn't have the thickness and the mass and the weight for those applications. Now, you know, Dan Winkler might object and say, this is not what this knife was for, but I can only tell you what I use it for. So I think this one's gonna be sold, and this one's gonna be sold. I'm gonna keep these two. I really like the Jaeger, but these are very much in the same kind of category of size, and I like the General a bit more. So yeah, if you want to dive into Winkler knives, I would say pull the trigger. You know, I know that the steel is a little bit, it's kind of a turn off in some sense, but it performs really well. I'm with you. I wish that they also did it in some other steel, but trust me, it performs really well. I would start here and then move over. And let me tell you something. One of the things that he really has to do is he has, I don't know, 30 models or so, you know, ranging from this one to this one. There's many intermediate sizes in here, and you'll find one that is exactly the blade length that you're looking for. So give them a shot. I would highly recommend it. They're some of the best fixed blades that you can buy, and it's because of the attention to detail in crafting them is really good. Well, guys, there you have it. That is the Winkler Knives brand overview. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully it's been helpful. If you did like it, and if you find it helpful, then like and subscribe. And until I see you at the next one, take care.